a distinguishing mark of the accountancy profession is its acceptance of the responsibility to act in the public interest. That is a responsibility, and that is what distinguishes us from other professions. We have accepted that responsibility to act in the public interest, and this is what is written in our code, the International Code of Ethics of Professional Accountants. So what is this public interest? We have been making reference to it a lot. The public interest is the welfare or well-being of the general public, according to Wikipedia. We also have another definition. What matters to the society as a whole, not just to a group of individuals, not just to individuals or groups. So that's the public interest. What matters to the society as a whole. According to the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct, it is the collective well-being of the community of people and institutions the profession serves. So this is a very holistic definition. It is the collective well-being, the public interest. We are looking at the collective well-being of the community of people and institutions we serve. So who are these public interests? Who is the public we are talking about? So the public are all the users of financial information and decision makers in the financial reporting supply chain. All the users of financial information. So it includes the financial preparers, includes the corporate boards, it includes stakeholders like customers, suppliers, auditors, governments. All of them use financial information. These are the public we're talking about. Financial industries. Citizens of any country, of any nation, they are also the public interest. So we should have this at the back of our mind when we're working as accountants, because we have accepted a responsibility to act in the public interest. So we are not acting only in the interest of your client or yourself. We are acting in the interest of anybody that's going to use the financial information emanating from your company, emanating from your activities in the financial reporting supply chain. So what is the interest? What is the interest of the public? We have seen who the public is, so what is the interest of the public? So one of the interests, we have a list of them, and we got this from the IFAC policy position paper. So the interest of the public is soundness of financial reporting. The public is expecting accountants to provide sound financial reporting, to provide comparability of financial information across borders, to provide fiscal prudence in public expenditure. This is what the public is interested in. Their interest is also that professional accountants will contribute to corporate governance and operational performance. They also expect orderly functioning of commerce because of the accountants, because of the work we do. Also, they expect financial transparency and accountability. These are interests of the public, and also a sustainable economy. So from the responsibility of an individual professional accountant is to serve and protect these interests. We have to serve these interests and we have to protect them in the performance of our professional duties. These roles and these functions are so fundamental that if you don't meet these interests, it means that we are significantly not living up to expectation. We are significantly whittling down the value of our work as accountants and the confidence that the public will repose on us. So it is really important that we perform this responsibility. Otherwise, what's the essence of being an accountant? So why you say you're an accountant, but all that we need, we are not doing it. So we're going to look at this responsibility. We can easily see it from the interest. So number one responsibility is consider the interest of the public and other stakeholders in performing your professional activities. And to do that, you look at the interest. And we have already said that according to the code, that the professional accountant's responsibility is not exclusively to satisfy your own needs. It is not exclusively to satisfy your own needs or that of your individual client or employee organization, but also to act in the public interest. That is your responsibility. Not only look out for yourself or for your company or organization or client, but also for the public interest. So we look at providing, when the public interested in sound financial reporting. So we're expected to provide sound financial and business reporting to stakeholders and people in the marketplace, as in everybody, both directly and indirectly. Anybody that has to touch the reporting should know that it's sound. We also have the responsibility to facilitate comparability. And you do this by using standards, the generally acceptable accounting principle. Make sure that your reporting is based on the generally acceptable accounting principle, so that there can be comparability across jurisdictions. Whether you are in Nigeria or you are in Sweden or anywhere, there are some generally accepted principles. Then also, orderly functioning of commerce. You are expected to reduce economic uncertainty in the marketplace and throughout the financial infrastructure. Example, banking, insurance, investment firms. So this is not only for auditors, it's for any professional accountants in business that you have laid the foundation as long as you are working. So if you're in the financial sector, insurance or whatever, you have to reduce economic uncertainty. And how do you do this? One of the ways you can do this is by timely and complete transparent financial reporting and proper disclosures. Because you can see, when you hear that some companies failed, it means that the financial reporting has been misleading. There are some things that they are not bringing out. So that is a failure of the public interest. So you're also responsible. The responsibility of a professional accountant to the public interest also means that you have to encourage governments and public sector organizations to provide their constituencies with sound physical information and decision making. So that means you have to advocate and stand for transparency and accountability. Wherever you find yourself, make your voice heard, advocate for the right things to be done. Then you should also contribute to sound corporate governance and performance. So the first one we spoke about relates to public sector. In the private sector also, champion and advocate for corporate governance in management. Another responsibility is, when we're talking about sustainable economy interests, we are responsible to make sustainability considerations in whatever you are doing. That is the new thing now, ESG, environmental, social, and governance factors. As an accountant, you should have it at the back of your mind. That is part of your public interest responsibility. The public is now interested in how organizations or governments are treating the environment. How are they handling social issues? How are they handling governance issues? So as an accountant, you're supposed to start thinking in that line too. You have to make those considerations in performing your work. So the next, we're talking about the responsibilities of a professional accountant to the public interest. We're talking about considering the public interest. So the next thing you have to do is to honor that public trust. Because the public has an expectation from you. They expect that you do this and this. You have to honor the trust that has been reposed on you by the public and by all the people you serve. So you have to honor the public trust by being competent. That is part of the ethical principles. Professional competence and due care. You have to honor that public trust by being competent. And you have to make sure you upgrade yourself, your knowledge, know what you're supposed to know. So it's not it will spiral to people above you if you're not doing your work well. So at any level you are, know what you're supposed to do, honor the public trust. And okay, we've talked about that. Then the next thing is number 3, act and be seen to act ethically. So that is the bedrock of the public interest. Act and be seen to act ethically. And you do that by applying high standard of ethical behavior and professional judgment. So that is, ethics is the key to achieving the public interest. Because if you're not ethical, you'll not be able to manage and strike the balance. And this responsibility to the public interest is not just an expectation, it's a real obligation of accountants. It's both a constructive obligation and it's also a legal obligation. It is a legal obligation because it has been codified in the code of in our international code of ethics. So it's now a law on us that we have to balance your self-interest in doing your work. You have to balance your self-interest, the public interest, your employer and client interest. You have to be able to manage that balance for you to be able to act in the public interest. You cannot neglect one or the other. You can never neglect the public interest. Even if you neglect your self-interest, at some point it seems as if you're neglecting your self-interest, but that is not actually true, because in the long run you see that you preserved yourself. So you must always strike a balance, and the one you must not compromise is the public interest. Because whatever you do for the public interest is for the common good, and also for your own good. So this tricky balance is what predisposes the accountant to ethical dilemmas. Because you see yourself trying to serve your own, I need to eat, I need to feed my family, I need to progress in my career. And you're trying, and I also need to be ethical. I have people have expectation, I have responsibility. I have to maintain my job. I'm employed here to do what? To help achieve the goals of this organization. And also, this organization impacts the world, impacts the people around, impacts the government. You're not paying taxes, you're impacting the government and the public. So you see that you have to strike a balance, and to strike this balance, you're always facing ethical dilemmas. And to help you in your ethical dilemma, you have to be an ethical person and comply. So we are going to go into looking at a case study, because these ethical dilemmas, the way you handle them, can either make or mar the public interest. It can either make or mar it. Either you resolve your dilemmas well, it will make for the public interest. If you don't, it will mar the public interest. So we'll go into the ethical dilemma. What is this ethical dilemma? So it has been defined by David Standen as a situation in which one has to choose between two equally undesirable outcomes. Two equally undesirable outcomes, that's the key word. Another definition is that ethical dilemma is a moral situation in which a choice has to be made between two equally undesirable alternatives. Okay, we'll look at this last definition. An ethical dilemma is an ethical issue that arises when the available choices and obligations in a specific situation do not allow for an ethical outcome. The obligations and the choices, there's no, if you do this or that, there will be a compromise of ethics. So, and when we are talking about ethics, it's good that we understand, we make a difference between ethical dilemma and ethical choice. They are different. Sometimes people can view them as the same, but it depends on your level in how ethical you are. Some things that are ethical choices will become like a dilemma to you if you are not a very ethical person. And some things that are dilemmas, you don't even know that it's a dilemma. So it just depends on how you view things. So we need to understand what a dilemma is versus what an ethical choice is. So an ethical choice is where there's at least one agreeable option. It is a choice. Because a choice is a decision where it's clear that one of the options, while not great, is still more suitable. So that's the choice. You just have to make a choice. And then you have to make an ethical choice. So, and like from the diagram, I think at least you know that there's something I can do. There's a favorable option. Then a dilemma, these are the features of a dilemma. Ethical dilemma is that the alternatives, they are alternatives. It cannot be one option. They are alternatives. And all the alternatives compromise at least one ethical principle. All the alternatives compromise an ethical principle. And then all the alternatives are undesirable. If you say you want to go through this one, that's an issue. All of them have issues. Then you're in a dilemma. And a choice or action is required. You cannot run away from it. You must do so. You must take a choice. You must make a move. Then you are in a dilemma. When you are not required to make a move, it's not your matter. Just mind your business. So when it's also you must do something, then you know that it is a dilemma. So we're now going to look at types of dilemma, or what different forms by which we fall into we are faced in a dilemma. So we have trust versus loyalty. Sometimes the issue is a matter of trust versus loyalty. You are loyal to this person. Are you choosing between maintaining personal integrity or you want to maintain your fidelity, your loyalty to your organization or to your boss. So sometimes we find ourselves in this kind of situation. It's a matter of your trust. It's a matter of truth, sorry, not trust. Truth versus loyalty. Am I going to stand for the truth? Am I going to follow loyalty? Both are ethical things, principles. Truth is good, loyalty is good, but that's where the dilemma is. Number two, individual versus group. Are you going to choose between the interest of an individual or that of a few, or that of a larger community? That's another point, especially in the public sector. You can also be faced in that. Even as in the private, as an auditor, are you going to be looking out for the interest of an individual or of a few, maybe of your audit firm, or of the community that particular, if you release that opinion when it's supposed to be qualified, what are you going to choose? So individual versus group, you can find yourself in such teams. And we also have another type, immediate versus future. Some people call it short term versus long term. So are you going to choose between present benefits or that of the long term? So are you looking at the short term as what they're going to get now, instant gratification, or longer term? So these are forms of that ethical dilemmas can present themselves. So it's good to understand, okay, what's the issue here? Is it something that has to do with short term? Is it something that has to do with the group or individual? So we also have justice versus compassion. Sometimes this might not really apply for the professional accountant, but you can see yourself in this form of dilemma. It actually happens more in the legal space. Thank you. And it's where you're choosing between fair and dispassionate application of consequences and the individual need or warrants for charity. It can also apply in the place of work, where you have to discipline. Because one of the things that happens with this non-compliance, when there's no discipline, things continue to happen. So I'm going to face, okay, I don't want to be seen as a wicked person, but this requires discipline. So this is another form of ethical dilemma. So it's good that we know that ethical dilemma is not, when we talk about ethical dilemma, it's not only about when money is at stake. Okay, we need to collect this money. Are you going to do it? You don't do it. Sometimes it's about relationship. It's about disciplinary issues. So we'll proceed with that. We'll now go to the case study. Remember our theme is ethical dilemma of the professional accountant, a make or a mar of the public interest. We have looked at the public interest. We have looked at ethical dilemmas. So is it a make or a mar? The way we handle our ethical dilemmas, can it make or mar the public interest? So we're going to use a case study to go through this. So the case study we're going to, because of time, we're going to just take one. We're going to look at the Carignan audit scandal. And this audit scandal is the clients, the company, Carignan is an outsourcing company, and their auditors were KPMG. So the company collapsed in January 2018, a few months after the auditors had issued a clean opinion. And it was such a big deal because it affected a lot of people. So what actually happened in this company? According to Financial Times, KPMG claimed that the management of Carignan had concealed information from them and doctored financial documents to make them more audit friendly. So that is in Carignan's side. So it means that the accountants there, they have doctored information. The accountant, the CFO, definitely the CFO will be in the know. The CFO was in the know, the CEO was in the know because they were all sanctioned. The CEO was disqualified as a director of UK companies. So he was in the know, and the CFO also was bad for 11 years. So you see that the accountant CFO was involved in this matter. So they concealed. And if you look at it, you know that the junior accountants, other people in that organization, or middle level accountants, would have been involved because the CFO will just give direction, so people will do it. So you see how, and I'm sure I believe, not I'm sure, I believe that would have been a dilemma for some of them. How are we going to doctor this information when we know that what we're doing is not correct? So we also go to KPMG. What happened in the audit firm? In the audit firm, according to Financial Times, the Financial Reporting Council found an unusually large number of breaches of audit standard, which meant that Carillon was not subject to rigorous, comprehensive and reliable audits in 2 years leading up to its demise. So it means that the auditors did not do a good job. They didn't do a good job. And all we're trying to understand from this case is the need of your considering the public interest in what you're doing. So from what happened in the company Carillon, you see that the accountants involved, the CFO and his team, they did not consider the public interest in what they were doing. They were looking at the company's interests and their own interests. They wanted to continue in business and all that. And KPMG also did not also look at the public interest in by them not subjecting the audit to rigorous, comprehensive and reliable procedures. It showed that they forgot about the public interest. Some issues. They reported some issues at KPMG based on the Financial Reporting Council of UK's investigation. They found that going concern issues were seriously not dealt with properly. Procedures in audit, you have procedures for going concern. You have to assess the going concern of your company every time, every year when you are doing the audit. You have to assess it. You cannot say, oh, last year the going concern was okay. Every year you have to do a procedure for going concern assessment. So it was, according to the investigation, it was seriously deficient. They also failed to respond to numerous indicators that Carillon's core operations were loss-making. So there are many red flags that would have told them these people are making losses that can land them that can hold them up. But they failed to respond to them. They also failed to gather enough evidence to conclude that their accounts were true and fair. They didn't have enough evidence because your opinion is supported by an evidence. So the evidence, according to the Financial Reporting Council's investigation, they concluded that enough evidence was not obtained, as they accepted presentations of financial information that suited Carillon's management. That is what the investigation says. They also did not scrutinize the director's judgment, even when this seemed unreasonable. Because in audit, there's a part of the evidence you can also obtain is representations from management, but that is always noted as an insufficient evidence. You cannot base your work or your conclusion on representations of management. That means that, okay, you say that, okay, we have so much, you said you have so much assets. You go to the MD or to the CFO, and the CFO says, okay, we have 1 billion worth of assets. You cannot just take it like that and say because the CFO that says he knows what to say. You have to subject it to further audit procedures. So they said that they did not scrutinize the judgments made by the management, by the directors. Some audit procedures were not completed until after the audit. So these are the things. You can see a lot of ethical breaches. You can see a lot of wrong things that were not done by the auditor. So what is the ethical issue here? There was objectivity issues, integrity issues, both on the two sides, both from the side of the company and the side of the auditor. Independence issues. Professional competence and due care was also not exercised, because if the auditor exercised the professional competence and due care, they would have picked all the red flags. Then there was conflict of interest issue, both at the side of the company and that of the auditor. Professional behavior for both. The CFO did not present himself as a professional. He did not act professional by doctoring information. That is unprofessional. And he is a qualified accountant, he's a chartered accountant. So all these are the ethical issues that happened in this case. Then what is the dilemma? What is the dilemma? I believe that the accounting staff in Carillon would have faced would have been in some form of a dilemma when they were instructed to, okay, change this, report it like this, so that even the audit team also the members of the audit team would have been faced with dilemma, because what is the public interest? Well, from all that we have said now, can we say that the public interest, there was a mark or a make of the public interest? Anybody? Can we say that the public interest was protected or it was destroyed?
It was destroyed.
Destroyed, yes. According to the Guardian, the carry-on collapsed with 7 billion debts in January 2018. That's a lot of money. And it resulted in 3,000 job losses and causing chaos across hundreds of its projects, including 2 big hospitals, schools, roads, and even Liverpool FC Stadium. So you know that football lovers, everybody was affected. So this is an issue, this is a very good case study of the impact the professional accountants can make when you are not doing your work well, or when you are not following ethical issues, when you are faced with ethical dilemma and you don't resolve it well. So it had a massive impact on the public interest. So we are now going to look at how to resolve ethical dilemmas. But before that, we'll look at factors that affect ethical dilemma resolution. Have individual ethical stance. Like an individual ethical stance plays a lot of role and affects the way you resolve dilemmas. Because if you're not an ethical-minded person, some things will just pass. You don't even know that this is an issue, this is a red flag. You have to really think about what you're going to do. Then your position in the matter, from the questions you have been asked throughout this conference, your position in the matter affects how you can resolve a dilemma. Just like the question that was asked that Mr. Sage's scenario when he was a young accountant, his position, he wouldn't have on his own, he wouldn't have gone ahead to do it, but because he was in a lower position, it affected how he resolved that dilemma. So your position also affects how you resolve your dilemma. Strength of the internal controls in place. He also said it. Where there are strong controls, things it will help you easily. That's why it's always good to have good internal procedures, good internal controls in place. Then the ethical stance of other parties. If the people around you don't have the share the same ethical values, thank you, like you, it will be very difficult for you. You see yourself in a very serious ethical dilemma that might even swallow you up if you are not strong enough. So now we're going to look at how to resolve ethical dilemmas. I'm going to be looking at 2 models. So we go to the AA model, the American Accounting Association model. So this model is most appropriate for individual situations, and it's in steps. Step 1, what are the facts of the case? When you are faced with an ethical dilemma, you have to find out the facts of the case. Identify all relevant facts about the case. Do not rely on assumptions, get more information. So when you are getting the facts of the case, it's going to help you to know whether this is actually an ethical dilemma or is it an ethical choice. Is it your problem? So is it your problem or that of someone else? When you have gotten the facts, is this my problem? Or is there a way I can just shift from it? If it's your problem, then it's an ethical dilemma. If it's not your problem, just leave it. Let the person that's his problem handle it. You can only advise the person. Then step 2, what are the ethical issues in the case? So examine the facts of the case and identify the ethical values or principles at stake, just like we did in the carry-on case. Then on step 3, what are the norms, principles, and values related to the case? Under here, you'll be asking, how will you feel if your family or friends know about it? What is the position of the law, professional, industrial, or regulation? Of the law or your professional, like the ICANN, what is the position on this matter? And your office code of conduct, HR policy. Then step 4, what are the alternative courses of action? You know, we said that an ethical dilemma must have alternatives. So you have to establish the alternative. Okay, if I do this, my boss will not be happy. It means I'm not loyal to my boss. If I do this, they might tell me they might sack me. If I don't do this, so just look at all the facts and what are the alternative course of action you have available. Then step 5, what is the best course of action that is consistent with the norms, principles and values identified. So the thing here is that is consistent with the principles and norms, not the best course of action that is favorable for me. So that's what you're going to look at. So it might not, that course of action might not be desirable because it's a dilemma, so all the courses of action are not desirable. So match norms, principles, and values to the option identified. So all the actions, weigh them across your ethical principles of the fundamental principles, weigh them across the norms, the laws, your policies in your office. Step 6, what are the consequences of each possible course of action? So here you consider how it affects you, the organization and other stakeholders. That's where we talk about considering the public interest. How is it going to affect me? How is it going to affect my organization? How is it going to affect my stakeholders? So this is going to really help you in knowing how to proceed. Then the next step 7, what is the decision? You now take a decision based on all the analysis from step 1 to 7 to 6. Take a decision. What am I going to do? So we're going to look at the UGN model. So this UGN model is appropriate for examining individual situations than corporate situations. It's also appropriate. It's also used to ensure that the decision reached is ethical, and it assumes that people that apply this UGN consulting model, that they are rational people and people that fear God. You see why I say that? So we have different steps. Number 1, establish the ethical dilemma. Is it an ethical choice or a dilemma? So if it's an ethical choice, at least you have one favorable option. What can help you with that is you use the set test, what we call the set test. The set test is it sustainable? The S stands for sustainable. Is this sustainable? Is it ethical? Is it based on truth? And does it support human rights? So when you're faced with some choices, it just helps you to make ethical choices. So you just use the set test if you have looked at it and you see that it's an ethical choice, it's not actually an ethical dilemma. Then if it's a dilemma, then you go ahead, which ethical principles are involved and what are your options? Then the next step, you look outwards. What does the law say? You're looking outwards now. What does the law say? Including your company policies and your code of conduct as a professional accountant. Then what will my family and friends think of me if I do this? You have written out all the options. So one by one, this option what? This option 1, what does the law say? What will my family say? You do it for all the options. Is it against fundamental human rights? How will it affect stakeholders? That's the public interest. Public interest consideration. Then you look inwards. Then you look inwards. You ask yourself, would you like it to be done to you? If this is done to me, assume I'm the owner of this company and people are just siphoning the money and you're aware of it, would you like it to be done to you? You ask yourself, can you sleep at night? After I've done this option and followed this, can I sleep at night? Then you're also looking inwards. You're asking yourself, what is God saying? Is it based on gospel truth? That's why I'm saying that anybody using this model has to acknowledge that there is God and you're accountable to God. So this number 2 and number 3 steps are like an accountability check for you. You're being accountable. You're accountable to the public, accountable to your company, accountable to your family and friends. You're also accountable to yourself and to God. So you have to ask yourself this gospel truth. Okay, this thing I'm doing, will God be happy with it? Is that what I should do? Then number 4, look at the long term. Is it sustainable? If we keep doing this thing this way in this office, is it sustainable? Then, and also under this look at the long term, what will be the outcome if everybody continues to do it? That's what you ask yourself for each of the options that you have identified. Then, number 5, you have to decide. So you basically decide on the greater good. When you have looked at all the options and done all your analysis, you make a decision on the greater good. Okay, I'm going to go by this, even though it's not desirable, but it will stand for the greater good. And that is when you're striking the balance between self-interest, employer interest, and public interest. So go for the greater good. Decide based on the greater good. Then number 6, manage the risk. Like we already established that ethical dilemmas, all the options are undesirable. So I have to manage the risk. What you have chosen, the path you have chosen, if it means that, okay, I'm already told that I'm going to be posted to a place I don't like, or I'm going to be demoted. So manage your risk. What are you going to, how are you going to, what am I going to use to mitigate the impact of this decision I've taken? How will your decision affect you? Do you have to blow the whistle, like what we are discussing here? Sometimes some issues are so, because of your position in the situation, you are not able to actually do what you want to do that is right. So all you need to do is to communicate, to report. So do I need to blow the whistle? So that's why whistle blowing is a very important safeguard and important internal control for any organization. And that is one of the things that the professional accounting bodies should be offering to their members. There should be bodies that their members can blow the whistle to. And also, EGN Consulting Services also provide whistleblowing services. So do I need to blow the whistle? Or do I need to seek legal advice at this point? Do I need to take a legal action? Because there are some points, like if in a top level, like CFO, and you see that this is actually wrong against the public interest, and they now want to terminate your appointment because you're doing something wrong. You can go to your seek legal advice, see if you can now take it to the court. Yes, you can sue them. So you have to manage your risk. Oh, okay, you want to throw me under the table. I will manage my risk and bring myself out. I'll not allow myself to. So that's where courage comes in. So sometimes people take the easy way out and they will say, okay, I will resign. That's not that's not always the best. That's not always what you can. You can also manage your risks and see what you're a professional accountant. So you can't just succumb like that. So number 7, after you have done all this, now take action. That thing that you decided to do. Don't procrastinate about it. Just act on your decision, and that will resolve the dilemma. So, and I don't know if we have any questions. We come to the conclusion. This is just my concluding statement. True professionalism is anchored on ethical compliance. The professional accountant must therefore comply and promote ethics to remain relevant in the society. To take legal actions to manage your risk, and given the corruption in the let me not say corruption, but given the irregularities in the legal space, I appreciate your question. But the thing is just for you to exhaust all the options you have to manage your risk. You can't say, okay, because the judges are corrupt, you now succumb to the position they are pressing you down. Because this legal action and legal advice is so very important in upholding ethical behavior. When you take that legal action, when it's important, when it's the right thing to do, to take legal action. Because first of all, when you take legal action, you must seek legal advice. So then the lawyer will now advise you, okay, based on the merit of based on this matter, looking at your HR, your human employee handbook, your policies, and looking at the law, okay, you can take legal action. So if you don't, you have to first of all seek a legal advice. And when it is within your rights and is appropriate to help you manage your risk, I advise and take legal action. But you also know yourself. If you feel that, okay, it's going to cost me a lot, that is why the professional accounting body plays a lot of role. They can come in to help you in that action. That's where they come and support their member. Okay, this member is now going to be witch-hunted. No, we will stand with you. When we now do all this, take this legal action continuously, many organizations will sit up. They cannot be playing with accountants anyhow. When you don't do what they want you to do, they'll just sack you. Before you know it, everybody will sit up. No accountants, you have to be careful with them. And they'll see in the long run, it is for their own good. They're saving their money because you are trying to tell them to do the right thing.